I'm Jono.
And I'm Kendall.
And we are Gearheads, and we are going to be talking about the new Santa Cruz Hightower V4 today.
That's right. If you guys want to skip around this video, we have chapter timestamps below. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Okay, so Santa Cruz has a large lineup of mountain bikes. We're not going to touch on all of those today, but we will talk about the trail bikes, so if you want to run people through that.
Totally, yeah. We'll hit the 4 main trail bikes, starting with the Tallboy. This is going to be the shortest travel trail bike. It's 120 in the rear, 130 in the front, and it comes with 29-inch wheels only. Next up is the 5010, which is going to be mixed wheels only, and is going to be 130 in the rear and 140 millimeters of travel in the front. After that, we have the Hightower behind us here. Now with 150 millimeters of travel in the rear and 160 millimeters of fork travel and 29-inch wheels only. And last but not least, we have the Bronson, which also came out recently, which is mixed wheel builds only and is going to have the same amount of travel. So 150 millimeters in the rear, 160 in the front. So the Hightower is like the flagship mid-travel trail bike from Santa Cruz. It's kind of their all-arounder, their do-it-all solution, but it has more travel than ever before.
There we go. That's the biggest new thing.
Getting into the new features, that's kind of the first thing you notice, right? So it's now 150 millimeters of travel in the rear. It was 145, and it was 150 millimeters of fork travel, but now it's 160.
Okay. And very similar to the Bronson, you said. Very same travel and all that.
Same travel, similar Geo. Yep. Speaking of Geo, this new one's going to come a little bit longer, a little bit slacker than the previous version.
Classic.
So in the low position, we're going to have a 63.9 degree head tube angle. And in the size extra large, we're going to have a 497 millimeter reach. And the reach numbers are about 5 millimeters longer than the previous version across all the sizes. Longer, slacker, more travel is kind of the standard thing these days. I actually think it was a really good call with this bike. On the previous version of the Hightower, I saw some people needing to size up, and I think increasing the reach a little bit is going to help people land on their size just like a little bit easier right off the bat.
And speaking of sizes, do you want to tell people what size options they have for this bike?
Totally. So it's going to come in a small through a double extra large. This is the XL behind us, and I am 6'4" for reference. So those are kind of the main new features, but we still have all of the things that we've come to know and love from Santa Cruz. Size-specific chainstays. We have the glove box, in-frame storage system, really easy to maintain rear linkage, lifetime warranty on the frames, all the good stuff.
Yeah. And bearings.
And bearings.
Yeah. So let's talk about this new VPP system they got on the V4.
Everything, it just moved a little bit lower. The shock is in a slightly lower position as well as the link. And you can see the shock is nested a little bit further into the down tube, which actually does slightly affect the amount of in-frame storage you have in the glove box.
And I see this window here and also visibility for the flip switch.
Right, yeah. So we have the new Sag window here, which just makes it a lot easier to measure sag, clean the bike, reset your O-ring while you're setting your sag. It's really convenient.
There's a flip chip on this bike. What setting did you run it in, and what options are there?
Right, so there's a low and a high setting, similar to what we've been seeing from Santa Cruz for some time. I rode this bike in the low the whole time, which is pretty much my standard move on all Santa Cruz bikes, actually.
Well, that brings us to colors. What are our options?
The bike's gonna come in 2 color options. We have the gloss day green behind us here, and it's also gonna come in a matte deep purple.
What are our build options?
So we're gonna have 6 total build options, and then we're gonna also have the frame only option, which is gonna be CC carbon only. And it's important to note with that CC carbon that they did away with the cable ports. So it's gonna be, wireless drivetrains only on the CC frame.
And the C frame that you see behind us, it tops out on this build with the GX axis.
Right, yeah, so this is that GX axis transmission build. I think it's a nice, well-rounded, kind of mid-level build. We're gonna have that GX axis transmission drivetrain, super reliable, along with Fox Performance Elite suspension, so nice mid-tier there. Alloy wheels, carbon frame like we mentioned, and then there are a couple things on this build that I really like. I think it's great to see the SRAM Maven brakes up there. This is gonna be the bronze version. Small note, I would like to see larger rotors. I think if you're gonna go through the trouble of putting a super powerful caliper on, I feel like you might as well have bigger rotors. These are only 180 millimeters, but I'm also a bigger guy, and if you're smaller, you could probably get away with it pretty easily. Aside from that, I also really like the one-up dropper on this bike. They have the 210 millimeter travel one on here on the XL, which I really appreciate. As a taller guy, there's plenty of brands out there that don't go through the trouble of putting a longer dropper on their bigger bikes.
Yeah, I'd say the dropper is like one of the main features for me. It's super lightweight and like rebuildable at home, which is really nice. Big upgrade from previous Santa Cruz models.
One of my favorite posts for sure.
All right, so let's get down to it. How does the bike climb?
Climbing, I was really impressed with this bike. I think, seeing 150 millimeters of travel, it's on the longer end of the mid-travel spectrum. It's more travel than the bike had before. I think some people might be worried that you're going to lose climbing performance, and I really think that's not the case here. The rear link provides really solid traction for technical climbing. We had some pretty sloppy conditions on the test ride, and yeah, I found that rear tire just to track really predictably in technical climbing scenarios. I think it would be super fun to take this bike on some like long adventures somewhere like Sedona or Squamish, somewhere with lots of technical terrain, because I think the bike really excels there. I also think that the updated Geo helps a little bit with cockpit position. I just feel like I'm not so crammed as I was on the V3, this new V4 with a little bit more reach. I just felt really comfortable and relaxed. I feel like I could spin on this thing all day, and it even would encourage me to get out of the saddle a little bit.
As we mentioned earlier, this is a full 29er, so different than the Bronson, which has the 27.5 in the rear. Did you notice that? Any difference there with the climbing versus the Bronson?
Right, yeah. So like I said, this bike is such a good technical climber, and I think part of that is due to the wheel size. I think that bigger rear wheel just gets up and over kind of like step-like obstacles a little bit better than the mixed wheel version is gonna do. But if that's not a concern for you and you like to do, non-technical flowy climbs and you value maybe like cornering and jumping performance a little bit more, then it might be worth looking at that Bronson.
Okay.
But if you like rugged rides in technical terrain, the Hightower is a great option.
And that leads us to how it descends, and we'll talk about that as well with the wheel size.
So the descending, honestly, with a mid-travel 29er, like I'm not overly excited about this kind of bike in general, but I ended up really liking this bike, and I think it mostly comes down to the revised VPP. I felt like this bike sits a little bit lower in the travel compared to the V3 Hightower, and that just made it feel a little bit more like what I'm used to with longer travel bikes, honestly. It just was really calm and stable on the descents. That rear wheel really like sits down into the trail and it doesn't skip around, even under braking. Like it stays down on the ground when you want to stay tracking, but it is still super playful. So when you want to get up off the ground, it's like pretty intuitive. Doesn't feel sluggish or anything like that. We did have a pretty good huck to flat, which I was a little bit nervous about with a mid-travel bike. Sometimes that can mean like harsh bottom out, like might hurt your ankles a little bit. That was not the case here. It was super comfortable, really plush in the rear end, and I think also increasing the fork travel helps a little bit there as well, right? Mm-hmm. So it can take on a little bit burlier features, and yeah, it was really fun actually.
I really want to know one thing.
What's that?
Who's this bike for?
The Hightower is really for everyone. Definitely stands out as a really great bike for like adventure rides, like longer distances, maybe like more rugged backcountry trails. And it's great for the seasoned pro, but I really think this is an awesome pick for like the entry level, more beginner mountain biker. Those 29-inch wheels are just gonna make it easier for you to navigate steep and like technical terrain. And it's just right in the mid-level of the travel spectrum where you can pretty much take it on like 90% of trails easily. This is kind of the people's choice mountain bike.
Yeah, for sure. It's been in the lineup for a while now, since 2016, and I think it's got a strong future. Stick around.
It's one of our top selling models. You see them everywhere.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
If you have any questions about the Hightower, be sure to reach out to a Gearhead. In the meantime, we'll see you guys out there.
See ya.
Yeah.